In a small southern town, where justice wore a blindfold and truth was punished for speaking, one man dared to stand against the tide of hate. He didn't fight with guns. He fought with conscience. And his quiet defiance became one of the loudest lessons in human history. When the world speaks of courage, we often picture heroes in uniforms, soldiers in trenches, or revolutionaries on the streets. But Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird introduces a different kind of hero, one who fights not to win, but because it is right to fight. This book is not just a story. It's a mirror held up to the soul of society, reflecting everything we fear to admit and everything we hope to become. Published in 1960, To Kill a Mockingbird arrived in a turbulent America, a nation trembling under racial tension and segregation. Harper Lee, a young writer from Alabama, didn't write it as fiction. She wrote it as truth wrapped in story. The book became an instant classic because it dared to talk about the things people whispered about, but never faced: racism, justice, innocence, and moral integrity. Through the eyes of a young girl named Scout Finch, we witness a world divided by color, but united by humanity's longing for fairness. Her father, Atticus Finch, stands as a symbol of moral courage. A man who defends a black man, Tom Robinson, wrongly accused of a terrible crime in the racially charged town of Macomb, Alabama. The story unfolds not with grand speeches or war, but through quiet defiance, whispered truths, and a child's unfiltered understanding of human goodness and cruelty. It began in a sleepy town where everyone knew everyone, and yet no one truly saw each other. The story unfolds in Macomb, Alabama, during the 1930s, when America was still healing from the Great Depression and deeply divided by race and class. Life moved slowly here. People spoke softly, judged quietly, and carried centuries of prejudice behind polite smiles. In the midst of this town lived a young girl, Scout Finch, and her brother Jem. Their days were filled with childish adventures, chasing mysteries, imagining monsters, and watching their father, Atticus Finch, who was different from other men in town. He wasn't loud, rich, or powerful, but he was principled. Their quiet lives changed forever when Atticus took a case no one else dared to touch, defending Tom Robinson, a black man accused of attacking a white woman, Mayella Ewell. The town's whispers turned into open hatred. Atticus had challenged the unwritten rule of Macomb, that justice was not color-blind. It began in a sleepy town where everyone knew everyone, and yet no one truly saw each other. The story unfolds in Macomb, Alabama, during the 1930s, when America was still healing from the Great Depression and deeply divided by race and class. Life moved slowly here. People spoke softly, judged quietly, and carried centuries of prejudice behind polite smiles. In the midst of this town lived a young girl, Scout Finch, and her brother Jem. Their days were filled with childish adventures, chasing mysteries, imagining monsters, and watching their father, Atticus Finch, who was different from other men in town. He wasn't loud, rich, or powerful, but he was principled. Their quiet lives changed forever when Atticus took a case no one else dared to touch, defending Tom Robinson, a black man accused of attacking a white woman, Mayella Ewell. The town's whispers turned into open hatred. Atticus had challenged the unwritten rule of Macomb, that justice was not color-blind. The courtroom became a battlefield. On one side stood truth, on the other, tradition. As Scout and Jem watched from the balcony, the section reserved for black citizens, they saw how lies carried more weight than evidence, and how prejudice could twist justice into something unrecognizable. Atticus stood firm. His voice was calm but cutting. You never really understand a person until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. He spoke not only for Tom Robinson, but for every man wronged by ignorance. He exposed contradictions, questioned motives, and dismantled every false claim. But no logic could defeat a poisoned mind. The jury, bound by centuries of hate, declared Tom guilty, though everyone in that room knew the truth. It wasn't just Tom Robinson who was condemned that day. It was innocence itself. AFTRTHEVRDACT for Scout and Jem, childhood ended in that courtroom. They learned that truth doesn't always win, and that justice isn't always just. Tom Robinson tried to escape prison, but was shot and killed. And though the case was over, its echo haunted every home in Macomb. The town returned to its slow rhythm, pretending nothing had changed. But for one little girl, everything had. Scout began to see the invisible lines that divided her world, race, class, reputation. She understood what Atticus meant when he said, "It's a sin to kill a mockingbird," because mockingbirds don't harm anyone. They only sing. And yet the world silences them, just like it silenced Tom Robinson and all who dared to stand for what was right. Teachy Haro, as the story unfolds, Scout and Jem also discover kindness in the most unexpected place. Their reclusive neighbor, Boo Radley, whom they once feared as a monster. When danger strikes, Boo saves their lives, revealing that sometimes the people we fear most are the ones who understand us best. Through this final act, Harper Lee closes the circle of innocence and misunderstanding, teaching that evil doesn't always look monstrous and goodness doesn't always look perfect. T. Bokes BSC Jirao Ending context, To Kill a Mockingbird is set in a time when America was morally divided. The South still clung to its old hierarchies, where color determined worth and silence was safer than truth. The book's background reflects a society standing at the crossroads of change and denial, where progress whispered but prejudice screamed louder. This wasn't just a story about one town, it was the story of an entire nation learning to face its reflection. Every courtroom, every porch conversation, every child's question symbolized a wound America had avoided for too long, the wound of racial inequality. By showing this through the eyes of a child, the book stripped away adult hypocrisy, because children see the world not as it is, but as it should be. Part 3 Swayambulasos, Amadiar Tarach. Sometimes the loudest screams are heard in silence, and sometimes justice wears a quiet face. At the heart of To Kill a Mockingbird lies one haunting metaphor, the mockingbird itself. The mockingbird is a symbol of innocence, kindness, and purity. It represents those who bring only goodness into the world yet are destroyed by hatred, prejudice, or fear. In the story, Tom Robinson is one mockingbird, innocent but judged, and Boo Radley, the mysterious neighbor, is another, misunderstood, ridiculed, yet quietly compassionate. Both are victims of society's need to condemn what it doesn't understand. When Atticus tells his children, "It's a sin to kill a mockingbird," he's teaching them that hurting innocence is humanity's greatest crime, because it destroys what keeps the world gentle. Teachy Swayambulasem off Atius Fine Ch. Atticus isn't just a father or a lawyer. He's the moral compass of Maycom. He stands for integrity in a world that rewards conformity, courage when silence is safer, and grace when hatred surrounds. When the entire town turned against him, he didn't fight with anger. He fought with calm truth. He showed that real bravery isn't holding a gun, but standing for what's right even when you know you'll lose. Atticus became a mirror for every viewer, every reader, every human, asking, would you still fight for justice if justice no longer served you? SUU2THEYOFINOCNC, the book's genius lies in telling this heavy story through the eyes of a child. Scout doesn't understand why people hate, why color matters, or why truth is ignored. She only sees what's fair and unfair. Through her innocent lens, readers confront the hypocrisy adults hide behind and realize that morality is not inherited, it's learned. Scout's growth from innocence to understanding mirrors our collective awakening. That prejudice isn't natural, it's taught. And once we unlearn it, humanity begins to heal. Lessons, Tirask and TM, even though To Kill a Mockingbird was written decades ago, its lessons are timeless, perhaps even more relevant today. One, prejudice still exists, not always in words, but in systems, silence, and comfort zones. 2, courage is moral, not physical, the strength to stand for truth even when it isolates you. 3, empathy is revolution, understanding someone's pain before judging their actions. 4, childhood innocence reveals adult hypocrisy. Kids ask the questions adults are too afraid to face. Every generation that reads this book faces the same mirror. Are we the jury who condemned Tom Robinson? Or are we the few who dared to stand with Atticus Finch? T. Bokes Madar Rafotiwan. In today's divided world, where opinions echo louder than truth, To Kill a Mockingbird reminds us that progress begins with perspective. It's not just a novel about race or justice. It's about the moral DNA of society. It asks each of us, what do we tolerate in silence? Well, who do we judge before understanding? And what mockingbirds do we destroy without realizing it? The story's beauty lies in its emotional realism. It doesn't preach, it reveals. It teaches without shouting, and it leaves you silent, not because you have no words, but because you finally see. Kaminchusio duwite koyureji tu und arstan bikimis gestice. Real courage is when you know you're licked before you begin, but you begin anyway and see it through no matter what. Atticus Finch, in the end, To Kill a Mockingbird isn't just a story about a courtroom, a lawyer, or a small town. It's a reflection of every society that still struggles between morality and prejudice. It shows that justice is not a law, it's a choice. And if one man, one father, and one child can stand up to centuries of silence, then so can we, because every generation has its Tom Robinson, every society has its Maycomb, and every one of us has a little Atticus Finch inside, waiting for the courage to speak. To Kill a Mockingbird is not just a story, it's a mirror held up to society. Set in the small southern town of Maycomb, Alabama during the 1930s, the novel exposes the deep wounds of racism, injustice, and moral conflict. Through the innocent eyes of Scout Finch, a young girl, we witness a world divided by color, class, and conscience. Her father, Atticus Finch, stands as the town's quiet symbol of integrity. A lawyer who dares to defend a black man, Tom Robinson, falsely accused of assaulting a white woman. As the trial unfolds, the people of Maycomb reveal their true faces. Prejudice masked as pride, and silence mistaken for justice. But beyond the courtroom lies a deeper story. The battle between innocence and evil. The mockingbird, a symbol of purity, represents those who bring only goodness to the world but are destroyed by hate, like Tom Robinson and the mysterious Boo Radley. The book reminds us that courage is not about winning, it's about standing up when the world sits down. It teaches empathy, moral strength, and the importance of understanding others before judging them. Even decades later, To Kill a Mockingbird remains a timeless reflection of humanity's struggle with its own conscience. A call to choose compassion over comfort, truth over silence, and justice over tradition.